Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our USBE Standards and Assessment Committee. We're glad to be here this morning. We have in the room two board members, Vice Chair Jenny Earl and myself, Randy Booth, and we have board member Sarah Reel on Zoom with us, and we're excusing board member Emily Green, who is out of the country. We're happy to have staff members and Deputy Superintendent Patty Norman here with us. And as we begin today, we are going to begin with recognition of the State CTE Safety Committee. I'll turn the time over to Deputy Superintendent Norman for that presentation.
Thank you. We will start with this recognition by stating the vision of USBE, the Utah State Board of Education. The mission is to open doors of opportunity for all Utah children. This month, we highlight the work of the following area that deserves recognition: implementation of the State CTE Safety Committee. We know there's a lot of talk and a lot of work that is done in the safety area, and this is safety that is specific to certain areas within CTE. So student and teacher safety. First, let's see. Do we have the folks online?
I'm just trying to share my screen so we can see the cute people online.
All right, so we'll recognize the team so we know who we're talking about first. So the team that is providing the support to Utah CTE administrators, teachers, and students is Jonathan Fry, Colton Williams, Christina Yamada, Sage Bowman, Lola Evans, Rachel Rout, Amy Fulmer, Marin Hansen, and Ashley Higgs. If you can wave to the committee and the public and let them know that these are the people that are putting all of this work in. So students and teacher safety is a critical component of all career and technical ed programs. CTE programs emphasize the connection of academic knowledge to hands-on skill training using a variety of equipment. While the LEAs hold much of the responsibility for the safety instruction, practices, and procedures, USBE CTE staff are helping to share best practices and coordinate discussions about safety issues. A statewide CTE safety committee was formed, and the group has been meeting regularly for 4 years to find ways to help all LEAs meet safety requirements. Working collaboratively, staff have shared best practices and resources that now benefit all CTE teachers and students. LEAs have made safety training, equipment maintenance, and ensuring proper procedures a priority. State risk management staff are also connected with the CTE Safety Committee to ensure that proper procedures are identified and followed. Risk management staff also help to bring issues of concern to the group so that all LEAs can learn and improve. Safety is now in the forefront of everyone's mind, and LEAs are better focused on safety as well. This is super important because when we talk about risk, we talk about finance, we talk about the safety of our students and the ability to grow and impact these programs in a positive way. So let's go ahead and give a hand to our CTE Safety Committee. Yay! So a big thank you to all of you.
We're very appreciative of the work that you're doing. When we recognize the number of students and the number of teachers that are involved in our state CTE program, we're grateful to know that you folks are making efforts to ensure safety in all of those educational experiences and for all of those students who will be impacted by our amazing CTE curriculum and staff. So thank you on behalf of the board. We appreciate your efforts, and we have certificates which will be sent to you, and we just want you to know that you are appreciated and keep up the good work. We have no public comment. Is that still the case?
That's correct.
All right, we're ready to do action item 1.3 R277325, Public Education Exit and Engagement Surveys, amendment and continuation. We'll turn the time over to Elise Newey and Julie Lundell for background information on this.
Yeah. I believe was it.
She wasn't here.
Julie will be in here. Just
She
a
will be
second.
in shortly. While we wait for Julie. So 325 is just up for its continuation. And so it's brought to us to review and make sure it's still current. And so the only changes that really were made for this one is adding the oversight category, which is a category 3, which sounds rather high. But because this program is really just for USBE to administer, the schools themselves don't really do anything with these exit surveys. We provide the exit surveys to all educators and building administrators. And then when a teacher leaves the profession, then they again take the survey so that we can get that data back, which is really important. And so because we really have the only responsibility, it's a category 3. The other change that was made was to the definitions. So educator for purposes of this rule, so who is able to get these surveys, now includes a school-based administrator. That had been happening in practice for years up until now. So we decided we should probably put that in the rule to make sure that that's clear for everyone. So no real changes there to the program itself. And then on lines 44 through 48, just made a few changes to help clarity. There was some confusion at the school level. So we wanted to make sure that was clear for everyone what was being asked of them. But those are the only changes on 325.
Okay,
So and we didn't get the surveys uploaded?
I made the request this morning.
Okay, that's
and
what
it
I
should be,
didn't
yeah.
actually seen the surveys, so that's why I was wondering. And we'll do, that we reference them in here, but I haven't seen them, so.
We're gonna get them uploaded for review. So.
Okay,
yeah.
is there any way we can come back to this then
Yeah.
later? Just so I just want to look down the survey before, just so I have if we have questions, if we're approving it, I want it, and probably on our coming before the board, we need probably the survey right first, and then.
are we approving the survey or are we approving
No changes are being made to the
the
survey.
changes to the?
Copy of the survey is located at, so I guess we're just referencing where it's located. I'm reading the rule, that's why I'm asking.
Oh.
So it was incorporated.
If it's incorporated, then it would,
Yeah, then we need.
We have to read it. It's not.
If
Changes
you're
are
not
being
making
made.
changes to it, then generally we don't bring the incorporated document, usually just bring it separately.
okay. I just gonna say, just because we're approving the rule with modifications, so that's why I was trying to figure out.
Listed as 2 separate items.
Yeah. Okay,
So we're only approving the
The
rule
rules today.
and we want the survey back. then.
well, we'll have to if it's incorporated in any way, right? Because everything else that's incorporated,
Typically, it's only when we make changes to the incorporated document. It's like if we were to make a change to a part of a rule and not touch the rest of the rule, it's still staying as it. So we
we
can
still should have the survey so we can see it, right? So if it, yeah,
At your request, that's fine.
yeah, at least that's what I've requested.
What do you want?
line
I'm on
34.
30, yeah.
Just sent the survey to Andrea. I think she's gonna try to
Okay.
upload it. There's also a link in the rule that says, follow this link, and it does go
Yeah,
directly to the
it doesn't,
site.
I'd have to,
It's not working.
well, it's not linkaged. I know what it's
It's kind of-
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and even at that, I have to download in order to.
Okay. Yeah, I just sent it over, so they're gonna try to upload and.
I'll upload it just shortly.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for it to.
Now, do we
clear
just say
this
once
in.
again, sorry, who uses the survey information?
It's required by the legislature.
And no one uses it?
We actually look at it a lot for information about how do we guide our retention efforts, how do we guide our, what maybe has gone wrong in a systemic, in an individual basis that doesn't didn't help, but in a systemic way, it kind of helps us to guide decision making around where do we want to maybe put our efforts for retention or legislative efforts or things that maybe would make a difference in keeping our teachers. It guides those kind of decisions.
Chair Booth, is it be okay if we move this, like, maybe after we had a couple of reports, just so that I've got time to look through?
Yeah, that's great. Let's move it a little bit later. We'll come back after we've had a chance to upload.
But we got to hear it.
That's great. Thank you.
I just wanted to see the survey before I moved it.
Action item 277462. Comprehensive school counseling. Elise, Leah, and Bethany.
Okay, well, I'll introduce this one. So you've actually seen this rule earlier this year, and we talked about it quite a bit. So we're just bringing it back because there was a recommendation from an audit that was conducted that a due date be put inside of the rule for clarity for the field. And so all that we're doing this time around is just adding that June 15th due date, which is what had been done in practice. We're just adding it to the rule.
And we just updated this.
Yes.
I mean, we just, I'm like, when I read this, I'm like, did we, this feels like a deja vu.
So auditors,
The only.
The auditors read the rule after it was all approved and said, oh, we really should have a due date in there.
Okay, I'm ready for a motion.
Great. Any question from board member Reel?
No questions for me. Do I have my hand up?
No, just checking, since there are only 3 of us here. Just don't want a third of our.
Thank you. Thank you for checking. The date looks great.
Great.
Okay,
So would you like to make a
Yeah.
motion?
I move that the committee approves R277462 draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Thank you. We have a motion that the committee recommends that the board approve R277462 draft 1 on first reading, forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. Any further question or discussion? Seeing none, let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. That's unanimous. All right. We are happy now to have some information items shared with us.
I'm gonna forward the survey to all of you because the agenda is locked. Sybil's the only one that can upload
So
it.
you're gonna email it to us?
Yeah.
Okay. And then we just need to make sure it gets on. If you make a note of that, Andrea, for the-
You add.
I sent it to Sybil already, but yeah, as soon as we, but I just wanted to give it to you now.
So, Kristen Campbell and Holly Bell, let's dive into 1.5 Information Strategy 2E.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. All right, I'm Holly Bell. I'm the Student and Family Rights Specialist for the Utah State Board of Education, and I will let Kristen, she's going to be doing the bulk of our presentation. I'll let her introduce herself in just a minute. Kristen and I work with the Strategy 2 team that focuses on ensuring equitable access to highly effective teachers. And this strategy aligns with our ESSA agreement with the U.S. Department of Education to address the disproportionate rates of access to educators. In particular, those students who are in Title I, minority students and low-income students in Title I schools, and the disproportionate rates that they are taught by ineffective, out-of-field, or inexperienced teachers. And so Kristen is our data genius, and so she ran some data on our students who are English learners. Part of the schools that are identified for school improvements are ATSI, CSI, TSI schools. That's probably what you've heard them familiarly referred to. They are required to look at student groups, and one of those is our students who are English learners. And so she ran the data to see how these students have access to highly effective teachers. And you heard from Dr. Christelle Estrada and her team a couple of months ago about the many things that they're doing to improve access to highly qualified and competent teachers for English learners. And so we presented this data that Kristen is going to present to you as part of the resource allocation process with the for continuous school improvement, also part of our ESSA agreement. And so we've just been asked to present this to you, and feel free to ask us questions, but I'll give this time over to Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Campbell. I'm a research analyst in teaching, learning, and licensing, and I've worked for a million years. Are there the slides? Do you have those, Andrea?
Oh, no. What? That were uploaded to Civic.
Long ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. Let me see. There we go. I have them in PDF form. I share them.
This is perfect. So first I'll give you a little snapshot of how many students are impacted in Utah and how many are learning. As of October 1, 2023, we had over 70,000 students who are designated as an English language learner. 11,000 of them are considered fluent, and about 60,000 are still eligible for services. This is comprising more than 10% of the Utah population in schools now, which is a huge increase from 10 years ago when it was about 2%. The next slide. Student proficiency, we looked at RISE, and we compared students who are multi-language learners, including fluent ones, with those who are not. And you can see the student proficiency on RISE is pretty dismal for multi-language learners, with 44% versus 14% in language arts. So, do you want questions as we go? As we go. Okay, I just have a question. If a student, and I'm just trying to remember, on their placement test for English, right, or their placement test, do all students take, I guess, okay, sorry, let me rephrase that again. Do all students take these tests? Yes, this is the RISE for all students. This is not the WIDA, which is designated. Right, but I thought the WIDA, that if they scored a certain number on the WIDA, they didn't have enough skills, so to speak, to take this. Is that not accurate? Everybody takes this. Everybody takes this. Okay. So this is also reflective of students who are just learning English, so some of our refugee families and stuff, they still take it. Okay. Right, and then it also is counting our fluent students also, though. Okay, yep. So it's both ends. Okay.
I have a question. Do we ever, sorry, on that same lines of what member Earl was asking, do we ever compare the data? Like, do we have a way to look at the data of those and their performance on the WIDA and then their performance on the RISE just to differentiate in any way?
We are starting to work on that right now. That is a project we're looking at for over the next year, is looking at some of that information.
That's great, because I think that gives a better picture.
So, all right. The next slide is on student growth. And this is the one that's kind of discouraging to me, because we would expect our multi-language learners to have higher growth in all the subjects, and they have lower growth in all the subjects. And you think 47 and 52, that's only 5% difference. But when we're dealing with 60,000 students, that's a lot. And so we are not making growth with these students at all. Next slide. Okay, middle school proficiency. All of those who have been a parent know the years between 5th and 8th grade can be very horrible. So we looked at all the 5th graders who were proficient. We didn't look at any of the non-proficient ones. We just said, here's our proficient class. And then we looked at those who were still proficient at the end of 8th grade. And it's not great that we lose about 25% of all students, but the fact that almost more than half of our math students who had been proficient in math in 5th grade are no longer proficient in 8th grade. We're showing some big drops and with our English language learners students. And again, this was based on their 5th grade. So these includes 5th grade fluent students. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to think of the data elements here. Some of those students are new to the system and some of those students are not, and we're not really differentiating between them. So when you say growth, no, so we took the 5th graders and we took the kids who are proficient in 5th grade. It's the same comparison.
It's the same.
Okay, I just didn't know if we were using,
Same
it makes sense like we were using
Yeah.
for all of our, so you're comparing apples to apples.
Apples, so you're comparing.
Gotcha,
apples to
okay,
apples.
okay.
So. The next slide. So then we looked at the teacher median growth percentiles. And the teacher median growth percentile is based on, you take all the students in their class and you look at their growth and you take the median one and say, that's the teacher's growth. We looked at teachers who had 10 or more EL students in their courses versus teachers who had less than 10. And you'll see that the teachers with the highest growth had fewer EL students. So this is something that we've looked at. Next slide.
But that would be expected. I mean, I think, am I wrong?
Well, we're just, I guess what we're trying to say is some of our teachers who are really good are not the EL students are not getting to them. So we can't say for sure like, oh, but you know, we're saying that some of our teachers who are really good at getting students to learn more, some students are not getting to them. And this slide shows it better. This is the percentage of licensed educators for the RISE test. And multi-language learner students have they're 20% higher chance of getting a teacher who does not have a professional license. So that is, why aren't these students all getting, a professionally licensed educator? And we know having a professional license, students have more growth and have higher student outcomes. Next slide.
What are we to interpret from that though?
Our teachers, we're not getting teachers who are professionally licensed to students who are multi-language learners.
I think there's more to that, right?
Well, I mean, this is all,
I'm right, because this is a broad analysis of the state, right?
Right.
Yeah,
but we're just saying, if you look at across the state, a student who's a multi-language learner is more likely to have an unprofessionally licensed educator.
And I think
is that what that says?
Yeah.
So
Part
of this is what questions do you want to have answered and asked?
Yeah.
And so within that, these are questions that are posed, and to be able to disaggregate the data in such a way that we can triangulate it and to dive down deep. And with any good data set, what it does is it asks you to ask more questions. And so this is perfect to be able to sit and look at the data set and say, but I have an additional question. And that's totally appropriate that we can go back and try and disaggregate data in different ways as well to add to this data set. It's a beginning, it's not always an end.
Okay, so this is my question once again. What is the end size on the teachers on this?
Let's see, I would gather there's probably about 12,000 teachers because the RISE is given in grades 3 through 8. That would be my estimate.
On 12,000 that are not licensed?
No, so there's 12,000 teachers that approximately
fall into this category. And how many of them fall into each end size here? Unlicensed and licensed.
So, 12% were not professionally licensed.
Okay, is that the RISE test?
It's the RISE test. So every year, about 10% of our teachers do not have a professional license.
Okay.
Now
and I'm just looking at 10%, so 120 versus, right, I'm just saying statistically, you've got so much more in the one category than the other. So I'm just trying to make sure it's an accurate representation. I can see we could make some not direct correlation, but we could say that there's, what's the term, more loosely saying that there seems to be some, right?
Yeah.
You could say correlation, but probably not causation.
Yeah. That's, I don't know if it's a correlation exactly. I don't know if it's that strong.
Yeah.
Because of the numbers. That's why I'm saying the numbers is what I'm saying. It sounds like most of our teachers are not licensed, and that's not the case.
No, most of our teachers
are licensed.
So that if we take
said 10,000 just to make math easy that were used in this data set. So 10% of them, approximately based on our state Yeah, yeah. averages, would not have a license. So that would leave
Okay.
9,000.
So I think basic is, you're more likely to have a teacher who doesn't have their professional license in, teaching a student. So if we have that data set across the board and we have 120 that aren't, then you're more likely to find them in a school with higher EL population.
Is that true? Sorry, I'm just trying to figure because of the low numbers. I don't know how you can make that direct correlation.
It would be of the 120, where are you most likely to find them? Would be the question.
Yeah. Okay.
And it doesn't. That's just a data point that would then ask.
So, and I'm just asking. So I'm not questioning your statistics. I'm just trying to understand what they actually mean. We have looked at data and like Title I schools and schools that have high significant percentages of high poverty students also have fewer professionally licensed educators. So, because it would also be, I mean, there's just some other elements that play into, and that would be, are there class size might be an interesting to run it, right? The size of class, and then, because you've got someone who's not licensed, and I'm not, we should have all license, so don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to make sure that the information is getting us what we need to know, right? Because class size might even play out. Maybe they have larger class sizes in some of our Title I schools versus, right? Yeah, there's a million. But it's not adequately trained. What you're trying to say, it's not adequately trained, so we don't see the numbers as high. Right. So, okay. Sorry.
If want the data out in other ways, asking questions, then we can add that to it and then email it out to the committee when those findings.
And that was actually one of my UPM goals, is working on a big research project on this kind of information. So, and then the last slide I have is teachers with the ESL endorsement. And so we looked at the median percentage of teachers holding one. And we're again looking at schools that had enough students in the multi-language group to get scored there. But the schools that were in TSI and ATSI, only 31% of their teachers had ESL endorsement. Not TSI were 46%. The top quartile of the non-TSI, ATSI schools, so these are schools that were not in the TSI setting, was 48. And then schools that made the top quartile with 10% or more EL student population, 63% of the educators had an ESL endorsement. I also just recently looked for Board Member Hart on the impact of having the ESL endorsement. And we did see educators, ESL students who had a professional educator with an ESL endorsement had better outcomes. But not only for EL students, it was all students. If that teacher had the EL endorsement, all of their students did better, not just their EL students. So that's something we're looking into too. Anyone would say, adding to your toolbox as a teacher helps all your students. And that's all I have. Do you have any more questions? Actually, these are really good because we're putting
our research as we're drilling down, we're really comparing apples to apples and just
we try.
Yeah.
We do. Sometimes we don't, but we are. I mean, because the hard thing is if we have teacher shortages in an area, then we're using alternative paths because otherwise we don't have someone in the classroom, right? So it's like, how do we put someone in the classroom, but also give them enough training that they can be successful? Right.
This is also, Chair, may I? This is also talking about the quality of teacher licensing as well. about it. Does it make a difference to have a professional license? Does it make a difference to? So those are questions that are answered in another way, whether it's an EL learner or any student in the classroom, because we know we get those questions from the legislature, from the community. Does it make a difference? And so these are questions that can be answered in another whole data set from another.
Can you break it out according to experience too? Because I think even a licensed teacher with how many years versus a licensed teacher with how many years, right? Because I think you learn until you start as much education as you have, until you actually have to apply it. You then grow because you have to apply it. Does that make sense? And then
first year teachers do not do as well in year one as they do in year 2 or year 3 or year 4.
So, which would be almost the same, maybe similar with a unlicensed, meaning that they're working toward. Most of those would be working towards a license, though, or are they just LEA specific?
A lot of them are LEA specific, and one thing, we lose about 25% of our LEA specifics every year. So as a first year teacher, 25% of them do not come back the next year. And I don't know if that may be because they came into a classroom with no training and it was not what they expected. So it does, and we know retention helps schools in general. If you retain your teachers in a school, the school does better.
So this refers back to the exit survey that we had.
Yeah. We're, and actually I work on that too. So that's what I get to work at that data also. It's, the goal is to have every kid have a professional teacher in the classroom.
Yeah.
And,
but that's not really the objective of this research. The objective of this research is how do we assist our English language learners for them to have the greatest outcome, right?
And fulfilling our ESSA requirement. So one of the things moving forward on this is an information item. It's not an action item, but you can direct staff at this time to be able to answer more questions, to have this come back to a committee with other questions you might have, or just be sent out via an email. That's something you don't need to decide now. You can decide later. Just some things moving forward. Kristen is the expert of all experts because she does do all of those reports. And so analyzing the data in different ways is something that
do you have any specific?
I don't know. I haven't thought of that.
Take your time. Especially with the WIDA. That was the test I am most unfamiliar with here. So I'm going to have to spend some time.
I would say this, and maybe this is something to work with our lead people on, maybe, but where are we finding the greatest successes? Like which districts are showing the greatest amount of improvement and really hone in on what they're doing, not necessarily where are we seeing the greatest deficit, which is important, but where are we seeing the greatest successes and how do we replicate that, right? And I know, I'm just speaking for a couple of my districts that I know, like Logan School District, they are very proactive at making sure all of their teachers are getting ESL training, and they are seeing, especially in their younger grades, even with high level of language students, right? Multilingual students, that they're having those high successes. So maybe saying, what is it they're doing? Yeah.
And this is 22-23 test data that we're looking at. So we are a year out.
Okay.
So, and we did find some phenomenal teachers who have just done remarkable for multiple years, not like, this 1 year, they've had multiple years of real high success. So,
well, we need good data and we need improvement when you see the numbers of children that we've got that are challenged. It's a huge number of kids. It's not a small little corner of the work that we're charged to accomplish. So every bit of good data and analysis of that good data is going to be very valuable in making appropriate course corrections as we move forward.
Do we have the data on, especially in the middle school years, of the dropout based on where they are on the WIDA? Does that make sense? Like if they score lower on the WIDA and they're consistently scoring, what are the chances in high school that I mean, what's the success rate?
I have not ever looked at that. I would.
Okay, that might be something to
Yeah.
look at because I do think that speaks to quality.
Yeah, we have looked at middle school in general, and if you're not, it's hard if you're not ready at the end of 8th grade
Yeah.
to really jump in high school. We looked at early college and, you know, if you weren't proficient at the end of 8th grade, the likelihood you were taking an AP or an IB or CE course in the main subjects was, you know, 60% of them had been proficient, you know, so we weren't. So we know middle school is also a me to part-time. But having, you know, just gotten one in high school. Last one, I'm like, thank goodness for those years. So, yeah, but that's something else we can look at. We'll add to our list of, there's
Possible,
there's
yeah.
4 of us participating on this project.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to really, and good news, we did see better growth and outcomes for them in all-day kindergarten versus
Yes.
half-day kindergarten.
Yes.
So,
Good.
having full-day kindergarten.
have that graph.
How
did you make the graph? I just said the data.
Yeah. Oh, so now we have to include it.
I missed
We have the graph for full day kindergarten and our English language learners, how they're progressing. And it is so absolutely amazing that I said yesterday that to Julie, that we need to do t-shirts and thank the board and the legislature providing that funding and the board for advocating for that. And so,
So you can see, so this is looking at our.
can you send that to me and then we'll post it?
Yeah. We can,
I think
are you logged in, Patty? Do you want to, I'll quit sharing and then you could share it.
I actually have it. So, and speak to it.
Julie, for this, I think you were the one who sent the request.
And then I was like, okay, it started with Christine and then it kind of spiraled from there.
Oh yeah, it was Christine who sent the request, and then I'm like, well,
And
let's
then
just. And I was like,
um,
John, do this.
Yeah, so
It would be good to have this is what ULEAD is kind of doing, right? But it would be good to have in your research and stuff, these are the recommendations of where we're seeing the highest successes, right? And putting together some kind of a one pager that this, and this is where we're gonna have the greatest successes for students, right? And especially our multilingual students.
Did you get that?
it's probably got to make sure it's a.
I know. It's got a scan for safety. So go ahead and speak to it and then we'll.
So you can see here what we're looking at is this is full day K versus half day K. We've got our economically disadvantaged. And then over here we have our multilingual learners. So the students who were in economically disadvantaged in full day K increased by about 30% from beginning of the year at or above benchmark to end of the year at or above benchmark on Acadian's reading. And the half day K increased by about 11%. But with our multilingual learners, they increased over like about 35% if they were in full day kindergarten versus, you know, about 15% if they were in half day. So, you know, the impact of them having that additional instructional time has really been a support for students attending full day kindergarten, especially our multilingual learners. We're hopefully setting them up for success in future years to be able to build upon that foundation that they've been able to establish.
So we have 1 year comparison on this, right?
This is
So
just
we-
1 year because because last
Right,
year
right,
was
right.
our first year that we had the opportunity for our kids to have full day kindergarten statewide. So yeah,
It's
Great.
still doing a safety scan, so we'll just.
I know, it takes really.
I guess we just need to probably make sure this is added. So we'll talk
Yes,
about it for the
yes,
board meeting, so people-
We'll add it. I'll forward it to you for sharing.
Yeah,
as soon as it's
absolutely. I mean, I'm
scanned.
super excited we just got it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a lovely piece of data.
Forward it to Andrea too.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
So now for jumping, that adds a question. So how many of teachers that are teaching full day kindergarten have the ESL
endorsement. I can find that out for you. I'm just saying, what is the difference there? And is the endorsement making a difference? I bet there's probably not as many. I could be wrong, but maybe that's just it. I don't know because, yeah, a lot of our, we did have full day kindergarten in a lot of our urban districts. And so they probably did. So it may be about the same, but that's just, I guess we can look at those.
Holly, did you have any final comments?
Well, as you can see, I'm just basically here for moral support for Kristen. But I appreciate listening to the conversation, and you've really had some compelling things to say and things for us to think about. But I'll just pull it back to our strategy for access to highly effective teachers. I think that after this conversation, you could see that that's a benefit to all. And we presented this data during the resource allocation review to the LEAs who were identified under ATSI for this particular multilingual students group. And it was really interesting when I listened to board member Earl talk about, okay, so what are the individual circumstances for that community? They were able to dig through the data and process through and have conversations with each other. Why does the data look like this for our particular schools? And have that conversation, make some plans around that. But I think it would be great to have the ULEAD team look at it and show some of those schools. And we've tried to pick out some of those districts who are having success to show what they're doing at our end. But it would be great to have ULEAD really do a systematic evidence review of that that would benefit all of our LEAs. So that's all I will say. And like you saw, Kristen I'm just a fan. So I'm just
That's great.
And our sons play on tennis together on the same team.
yeah.
Fun. Well, we appreciate that information and look forward to ongoing updates as you
And
dive
then,
in deeper.
and you can send us Patty questions, we'll forward them to me.
Great.
Would you like that update, when you get to just via an email or?
Yeah, do it. You want, the kindergarten one's fairly easy to do. Do it for the whole board though. I think it's that, just let them know as we get the update that just kind of an FYI, we discuss this in standards assessment. Okay, I'll work on the kindergarten one then. Yeah. So the weed one's gonna take me a little while. So it's okay. It's always wondering how WEDA compares with other. Well, and they changed the fluency fluency last year, I believe. Yeah, it was. And so we're gonna have to make some decisions about how we interpret older students. So, okay. Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we're ready to move on to 1.6. We have an opportunity to get an update from Matt Winters on our AI and education.
First off, thank you so much for allowing me to speak today and talk about AI in the state of Utah. I'm very excited about what we're doing across the state and some of the things that are happening. And then my board backing, there are some updates to it just because of numbers for especially point one. So first thing I want to talk about this morning is we do have our upcoming artificial intelligence summits across the state. These were announced last month. And registration has gone extremely well across the state of Utah. We have over 450 registrants to come out starting next Wednesday. We're again doing them all across the state starting in Richfield, Cedar City, Moab, Hebert, Ogden, and Orem. And currently the registrations have gone up from quite significantly. So Cedar City went from 25 to 40 in the 2 weeks since I put the board backing up. Heber went from 50 to 74, Moab from 12 to 24, Ogden from 75 to 105, Orem from 76 to 101, and Richfield from 27 to 38. That's 118 additional people over the since I put in the board backing. So we're very excited to have a large amount of teachers and educators from across the state of Utah coming out and joining us over the next couple of weeks. And we've also been very excited as a team that the different roles that are going to be coming out. We have a significant amount of classroom educators from a variety of backgrounds, but then also all the different strata, all the way up from different levels of education and different LEAs, as well as a significant chunk of representation from our charter schools and from schools like this school for the deaf and blind. So we're very excited about everything that's happening with the summits, and next month I'll be able to include some of the post data and share that out with this group. Number two, UEN launched last week a eMedia AI hub. This is a resource hub right now that's focused mostly on resources for professional development for teachers. So it has tons of information. The only embedded resource on there from USB is our AI framework. Everything else is from across the internet and include things like LEA policies from across the state of Utah, as well as policies from across the country, tools for the RFP tools that were announced last month, and we have common good tools as well. The AI Hub is slated to continue to be adding resources over the next year, including lesson plans and materials for teachers from across the state. And then the last thing is internal USB training. I've been working with a variety of groups across the entire organization, meeting one-on-one with our team and teams with them, and doing a very in-depth discussion about their need cases for their particular positions and how their need cases could use AI to help speed up their work or filter their work in a different way, or to make their work easier for them and for the public. And so we're starting to see some interesting gains that way, and we're going to be continuing that work over the next couple of months as well. We're developing a series of lunch and learns as well, me and a few of the organizations or the groups across the agency, with one of them kind of being launched on, this isn't on the board backing, but we decided that's October 11th, it's a Friday, is going to be an internal USB summit for AI. And so there's going to be some training open to our teammates here as well.
Great.
Can we sign it like the Ogden one?
Yes,
The
please.
20th?
Yes, if you'd like the registration, I can send that to you. They're open to the public, and they're open to any educator communities. So, and the goal of the summits across the board is help LEAs that don't currently have a policy to develop that policy and like give them ideas and insights, but then also to understand across the state where we are with artificial intelligence to help me establish best goals for the future.
Gotcha.
And then also
Kind of a framework. Yeah. Is that what you're doing? Yeah, a little bit.
getting in the framework out, but then also kind of a needs assessment and fact-finding mission. So.
Okay. Any questions from board member Reel?
I don't have any at this time.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, we have Julie Clark and Christine to give us a quarterly update on our membership outcomes.
So I am here today to give an update on our SB 127 quarterly report for the projects that we have been working on with SB 127 and some of the highlights that we have encountered as we've been working on these things. And so we kind of break SB 127 up into 4 areas. The first one being instructional practices. And so some things that we have done to support instructional practices are reviewing, our RIMS committee has completed another round of reviews of literacy curriculums to align with the checklist that was approved by the board a few months ago. And those curriculums have been added to our list. Our next review cycle will be in the fall of 2025. We were doing them every review cycle, but we are now seeing a slowdown of submissions. And so now we're going back to the regular review cycle that the RIMS committee does. And then we also held a literacy best practice symposium with 125 principals and coaches this summer, spotlighting some of the work that is being done around the state for the implementation of the science of reading and what is working, to share that data, to share that information with other leaders across the state. It was very well received, very well attended, and we had a lot of positive feedback and requests to come and do it just in their LEAs. So we're looking at going and supporting some LEAs with that information again, just so with their individual principals in their LEAs. So, and then the next category that we have is our professional learning support. And at the end of last year, we had over 10,500 educators complete all 8 units of their letters, and they are done with that professional learning. We do have about 500 more that are finishing up this year because some LEAs chose to wait a year before starting the implementation of that. So they are finishing up this year, and we're excited to see a final report from Lexia that they will provide after all of our educators become completed with that. So some data that they will provide for us, they will give us a report. So we'll look forward to that in the spring and next summer. We have over 300 school leaders, principals that have decided to extend their learning from just the principal primer letters that they took and take the new letters for administrators that has come out. It goes into a little bit more depth of building a literacy system within their school. And so we have 300 educators voluntarily took that, and we had such a high request for more of those opportunities. We'll be offering 3 more cohorts of that this fall for principals that are looking to extend their knowledge and really build that sustainable literacy system within their schools. And then we have started our second year, or we finished our second year, or started our second year of collective efficacy last year, starting a new session of it this year. We have Connect Ed Connective that supports our LEA leaders in literacy and coaches with professional learning. So they get a professional learning coach. That's part of the bill. It's not a requirement, but it's something that is available to them. And we have had over 751 professional learning coaching sessions provided to leaders and coaches within over 28 districts and over 32 charters. So it's kind of giving those leaders a personal coach for them to build ideas off of and to learn and grow in their own profession. And then we did have an exciting event where we had Dr. Anita Archer come last May, and she provided her explicit instruction training, Train the Trainer Academy, and we had 175 coaches around the state attend that week-long training. So it was a really big highlight for our educators to be able to learn directly from Dr. Anita Archer. And then our next category we have is our system supports. And these are where we are supporting the literacy system. And one piece of that we absolutely love and is kind of the highlight of our job is identifying and finding those bright spots in those teachers and coaches and district leaders who are really advancing the work. And we awarded 19 teachers, coaches, and school leaders the Science of Reading and Excellence Award. And those are just wonderful days that we get to go and share with them. We have also shared the link for nominations again with our leaders to be able to go and see more educators that are doing amazing things across the state. And so if you see anything, please let us know. We want to go and see these great teachers and be able to recognize and honor them. And one thing that is so reassuring when teachers say, what I'm doing is finally being noticed. You know, it's finally being seen. And that's what we want to do because we know there are great teachers out there doing amazing things. And we've asked a lot of them to devote their time to increase their knowledge. And we want to recognize those that are putting forth the effort and really making those changes in their classrooms. And so, you know, we love when people get nominated so that we can go and see them and give them these awards. And we would love to do it more. So as you guys are out in schools, you know, if you see things, please let us know. We would love to go and visit and see some of the great things that you're seeing as well. And then we also launched our second year of the Kids Read Now program, and where students received 4 books in their homes over the last summer. And then our last section is our higher education supports, and the established cut score for the Foundations of Reading assessment is at 240. That went into effect September 1st, so just a few days ago. So for now, from now on, the teachers will be required to take the Foundations of Reading assessment and pass with the cut score at that 240 score to receive their license in elementary education, special education, or early childhood education. We also built micro credentials. So those for an alternate pathway for those who do not meet the cut score of 240, they can demonstrate their competency by completing the micro credentials to be able to receive their license as well.
Right.
And those are our updates. Do you guys have any questions?
Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I do think when you talk professionalism, I think recognizing outstanding professionals really does speak to. And how do people know? So let's say are you recognizing them on a monthly basis or just when they get nominated?
When they get nominated. So when they get nominated, that we have a nomination form. So when they're nominated, we do set up a time to go to their school and do an observation. And then we, if we determine that they meet the criteria for receiving an award, then we schedule a time to come back. We often do it as a surprise, and the teachers don't know about it. And it's a lovely day. You know, we kind of work with their LEA leaders on inviting their families to be there, and some do an assembly, some do it in their classroom, but we want it to be a special event for them.
So how do we get that out in the broader view? Do you have a newsletter or something?
We share it with our literacy directors at each of our literacy director meetings, and we share it out when we send out emails to them as well throughout the school year. So.
And literacy directors are at a school level?
For charters, they're at the school level, or but they're mostly at the LEA level. So yeah, and we do ask them to share that out with their principals, and we have had colleagues recognize other teachers. So some LEAs have shared it down to the teacher level, because you can nominate yourself too. You know, there is an option for you to nominate yourself on the form. And so we do want it to get down to that teacher level, but you know, we communicate with the LEA leaders and not down to the teacher level. So we rely on them to share it out within their LEA. So yeah.
Very good. Okay.
Let's see. What did you do this summer? And it's like
Do you still feel the same momentum? We've changed some of the laws and stuff, that same momentum to continue.
Yes.
Right, that it wasn't just, oh, that was a fad and we're done, or the continue of being, okay.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we are still at the beginning stages of that too, you know,
transition,
just really,
more thought.
To be very more intentional about their instructional practices and
And I guess just because we had the multilingual learner, the ESL element, how are you implementing known strategies for reading for students that have language barriers?
So a lot of what educators learned in letters is best practices for those multilingual students and those struggling readers or the economically disadvantaged. So we know that when we do what is best for them, we're doing what is best for all kids.
That makes sense.
You know, and so those practices are key for their learning, and it works for all students. Yeah. So there is sorry, going on. I could go on all day. Because there is one unit in letters, the unit 2, that talks about the speech sounds, and it specifically focuses on multilingual learners and how that is different. You know, when somebody doesn't speak English and we are trying to teach them speech sounds, how it's like they're learning a foreign language, you know, and so we have to recognize what is similar and what is different and be able to help them with that. So it specifically goes into Spanish, and it shows, you know, that they have, I think, like 28 sounds versus our 42. And so, you know, there are 20 sounds that don't exist in the Spanish language that do in English, and we have to really be intentional on teaching those students those sounds and how they differ from English and Spanish. So they do go into depth in that in letters about those multilingual students. Yeah.
All right.
Great,
Yeah.
we appreciate that update. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So at this time, we have the exit survey that has been uploaded. Would you like to take a 10-minute break?
Yeah, I got halfway through, but I haven't got all that
Okay.
through.
So I just wanted to let you know it's up there and if you wanted to do anything for time.
Yeah, let's take a 10-minute break and we'll be back.
Just want to make changes on that one. We'll have to notice it for another time if you follow what your practice
Yeah,
is.
that's fine. I just wanted to be able to verify, and I just with our discussion today, it would be interesting to have, are you trained in English language, right? I mean, those kind of things, but yeah, that's fine.
So for the public awareness, we will be back at 10:15.
Thank you.
Push the mic off on the tape.
There's some time. Okay, it's 10:15 right now.
Okay, we're back with USBE Standards and Assessment Committee. We've had a short break to read through the engagement exit and engagement survey that was referenced in action item 1.3 R277-325. And we're now back, having read that, to discuss or have questions answered before considering the motion. So, do you have any comments based on your read-through?
I obviously, because we're going through survey, I wonder if there is some benefit to knowing whether or not, I mean, which we'd have to bring it back on next month or whatever, but just the training for multilingual learners seems to be a current, right? If asking a question related to that. I just had a question on the survey makeup. If I'm not thinking when I should have wrote it out, but if they answer, I can't remember what it was. Do they answer all questions or based on what they answer?
Jumps.
It does jump. Okay, that's what.
So if they say yes or no to certain things,
Then it would, okay, that makes sense. Then I just had that question because I'm like, it seems like some of these you wouldn't have to answer based on your answer to something else. That was my, right, but this is just all the questions that could be asked.
Exactly.
Okay. And then I just had a question in a couple spots. It asked about, can you be innovative in your classroom? I just wonder if these align really closely with our educator standards. Is innovation really what we want, or is my practice is research based, right? Or I can't remember how it was worded. It was S1.01. Just I guess looking at those questions that fall under that, and are they in an alignment with our educator competencies? Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but is innovation one of those things that we require teachers to be? Is that what we value, innovation, or do we value, do you know what I mean? The type of practices in the classroom, which maybe it is, but does innovation actually lead to better outcomes, or does applying research, strategies or something? Does that make sense? Does it make sense what I'm asking?
And the last time this survey was done, and it was in 2022, which is 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And there are some statistical reasons around trying to keep it kind of stable so that you can compare data from 1 year to the next.
Yeah, I'm just saying to really look at those questions.
So I think it was aligned with the standards, or because our standards came out just about that time, but it may not be exactly. But the intention is not as much around are the teachers effectively, participating and doing this, meeting the standards. The question is, what led to you leaving? What kind of experience were you having? And so I think the innovative classroom, and I'm just
questioning something like, something like, does your administrator encourage you to be innovative?
Yeah, and I think that's probably seeking a little bit, and not that it couldn't be reworded, but it's probably seeking a little bit more of the teacher's perception of, did you feel some sense of freedom?
Some flexibility,
flexibility or autonomy.
Okay, so
the intent of the
question. I'll have to look, like I said, it was a quick look, so just looking down. I think
that's not to say that it couldn't be reworded or changed.
Right, and I guess because that one stood out to me. I'm like, is that really what the responsibility? Do you know what I mean? Is that what the
teacher wants?
Yes. And if it's an end of year survey, it wouldn't be just exiting, right? I mean, it's used for both, right? Exit, is it only used for people exiting?
This one is only used for people
exiting. Okay.
So engagement
I was
survey,
yes,
is done every 2 years and is given to all educators. So
thought this was
so those are two different surveys. Would you also like a copy of that one?
Yeah, isn't that one in here too?
They're not separate than the exit survey. The exit survey is just for those who are leaving the profession.
Okay.
Or changing districts. I mean, just leaving their LEA for whatever reason.
Does this have to be moved this month?
I don't think the continuation is until January, but I will need to check and get back to you.
Yeah, because we don't have that other survey either, right?
No. Okay. Yeah, we thought we were talking about the rule, but if you'd like to actually dig into the
Well,
survey, then
only because if it's in connection with the role, then I would want to look at that. So that's what I would actually move that we postpone this to next month. It's minor changes to the rule, but if it's not necessary, and it looks to me like it just has to be before, either first year before end of year, right? That we make these changes. It's just minimal. I'm not seeing if an LEA administers the school climate survey every other year, it's discriminating. Yeah, so it's just minimal cleanup. Am I right in saying that?
You are correct.
I'm not
with that,
seeing
for
any
sure.
major.
Or you want them as three separate agenda
It
items?
has to
There would
be
be
three
an
separate.
exit, an engagement survey, and then so we would put those two first, right? To be the documents
surveys,
incorporated by reference, and then the rule itself.
Only because if it's incorporated, then we would be actually approving the survey with the role itself.
So it is up for its 5-year review on the 9th of January of 2025.
Okay,
we
so
do have
we've got a little flexibility.
Yeah.
I would just move that we postpone this then to next month, just so that we have all the information before us and makes sense. But if we got, those are probably available already somewhere, right?
They are online, yeah.
Yes. But we could upload the other one here too, so that people had access
it's
to
more
it.
easily accessible.
So, okay. Yeah, that's what I would.
Okay, so we have a motion to postpone until next committee meeting in next month in October. And is there any discussion of that motion?
Could you add to it and review the exit surveys?
Oh, yeah, and yes, and review the exit surveys,
Thank
the
you.
exit and engagement surveys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay,
Be clear.
so we have a motion that we will postpone and that we will review the exit and engagement surveys in preparation for that agenda item in our October meeting. Seeing no hands, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's unanimous. All right.
Can we, and I think I asked last month, but can we get the ELA standards update? And what I mean by that is, they were going to make sure that we had, in the core guides, I want to have presented what we've done in those areas.
It's an information item.
Yeah, just as an information item,
As an information item.
ELA standards review.
because we've left the grammar components broader in the actual standards.
Looking at grammar incorporation.
And they said they were gonna build them out in the core guides that are usable and that framework, and I just wanna see where those are. There's a lot of discussion about us leaving our standards very poorly written, and I wanna say, is that true? Do we need to articulate on that, or do we have it there and it's just at a broader range in the standards?
Especially following the standards and committee goal setting.
Yes.
And would that be Julie? Okay.
Anything else? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn standards and assessment meeting.
Any discussion?
So inappropriate all the time.
Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
That means we could go